It is really frustrating if you are a service-based business and you're not getting consistent clients. It can be a stressful place to be in, right? If you kind of feast and famine, not sure where the next client is coming from. What's even more frustrating is if that's happening and you really have no idea why. If it feels like you're doing everything that you should be and it's still not working, you're still not getting clients, that's a really sucky place to be. And that's the place that I want to be talking about in today's video. So this kind of happens to business owners. Usually when you've been in business for a while, right, and you've had a chance to kind of figure out what you should be doing. You've maybe done some courses, read some books, maybe worked with some coaches, and you've kind of got a good sense of what it takes to market your service. And you've probably already seen some success. You've had some clients, you've seen some of the things that you're doing work. You've had those moments where you thought, finally, I've cracked it, I've nailed this thing at last. And then suddenly it stops working and you're left wondering, what the hell has happened, and what's going on when you're doing everything that you should be doing and you're still not getting those consistent clients signing up. And this can be especially frustrating when you're looking at other sort of business owners around you who are seeing consistent income and getting consistent clients and appear to be doing all the same kind of stuff as you, and yet it's working for them and not for you. And it can be a really horrible place to be in, because what often happens in that situation is that eventually you kind of start to look inwards and you kind of go, well, I'm doing all the right strategies, and if that's not working, it must be something about me. Maybe I'm just not meant for this, or I'm just not good enough, or all of these horrible things that we sort of think to ourselves and tell ourselves. And of course we're always the kind of quickest people to kind of, you're always your own worst critic, aren't you? So we can quickly turn to self-criticism and this idea that we are in some way flawed, and what works for other people just isn't going to work for us. And that's a sucky place to be. And the other thing that's really difficult about being in this situation is, if you don't know what the problem is, sometimes what we do is we then kind of focus in on one thing, right? We kind of go, it must be this. And suddenly we become kind of obsessed with fixing this one thing, as if this is going to be the kind of catch-all solution that's going to fix our business. And that's all well and good if that is the one thing that's holding you back. But oftentimes we focus on the wrong thing, right? So you might be sort of sat there thinking, oh, if only I could sort out my copywriting. If I could just nail my copywriting, then everything else would fall into place. And so you kind of obsess. You maybe go and invest in a copywriting course, or you hire a copywriter to come and sort out your copy and all of this kind of stuff. And that's great if the copy is your problem, but it's not helpful if, say, for example, messaging was your problem. If you're not clear on your messaging and you spend a bomb trying to fix your copywriting, it's still not going to fix the problem that your messaging is wrong. It's the same sort of thing I see when people go and spend a bomb on ads because their marketing isn't working, and ads aren't going to fix something that isn't already working. They're just going to maximize what is. So if actually your marketing isn't working, you need to sort that out before you go and try and fix it with something like ads. So there's all these things we can kind of go off down these sort of pathways that are taking us in the total wrong direction, and ultimately just leading to more frustration. So what do you do instead? If you are in this situation where you are like pulling your hair out, I'm doing all the things I should be, and I just cannot figure out why it's not working for me, I am here to give you some practical tips on exactly what you can do from here to try and figure out what's going on and fix it. So the first thing we're going to talk about are metrics, right? If you don't know what's going on in your business, in terms of like why things aren't working, why you're not getting the results that you want to, the very first place to go and look are your numbers, right? If you're not getting the clients that you want, if the consistency isn't there, go check the numbers. And I'm going to share with you 3 key numbers that if you're not already tracking, you absolutely should start tracking, because these 3 numbers are going to give you so much insight into what's going on in your business and what's working and not working in terms of the marketing activities that you're doing. So get a pad and pen and jot this down, because this is going to be really, really important. So the first and most obvious metric that you need to track is sales, right? Fairly obvious. Now, this is probably one that you're already uber aware of, right? If you're not getting consistent clients, this is probably something that you certainly don't need to be jotting down, because it's there, burned into your brain, the number of sales that you're making or not making, as the case may be. But this is the first number that you need to absolutely make sure that you are keeping a track of, because obviously this is what's going to tell you, like, are you getting consistent clients or not? Yes or no? Here are the numbers. Let's have a look. The second metric that you should be tracking are leads. Now, leads, I think, is a very confusing marketing term, because it can be used in so many different ways. I have actually done a video on what my definition of a lead is, which you can feel free to go and check out. I shall leave a link to it. But to be brief, my version of what I describe as a lead is someone who is actively interested in your service, not just your business. So I'm not going to call someone who subscribes to my email list a lead yet. But I am going to call someone who books a discovery call a lead, because they have shown an active interest in my paid service, not just my business. Okay, so that is something you should absolutely be tracking. If you use discovery calls for your service, how many discovery calls are you booking, right, each month? How many people are booking a call with you to talk to you about your service? Okay, and already now we have 2 very useful statistics. Okay, because you can see, okay, I am booking 5 discovery calls a month, and I'm getting 1 client. So that's telling me I've got a 20% conversion rate. Pardon me. On my discovery calls. So potential room for improvement there. If I wanted to increase my sales, I could look at how I can improve my conversion rate on my discovery calls. Okay, so we're already starting to get some information that's actually going to be useful as to how we can start to move the needle with our business. And then the third metric I want you to start tracking, if you are not already, is your audience growth. Now, when I talk about audience growth, I am talking about, again, people who are ideal clients, and who are showing a relatively active interest in your business. So for me, an email subscriber is an audience I'm going to track. I'm going to track the number of people signing up to my email list, because I know that those people have shown sort of an active interest in my business. Someone who joins my Facebook group, that's also something I'm going to track, because again, they're showing an active interest. They've kind of raised their hand. They've gone, yeah, this group sounds like it could be useful for me. So that's an indication to me that they are potentially, probably, an ideal client, and someone who's already aware of me and is more likely to then book a call with me. And so you start to see this journey that we're taking people on, right? So I know that if I'm not bringing many people into my email list or into my Facebook group, that's going to have a knock-on effect on the number of people I've got booking calls, because most of the people who book a call come from those 2 audiences, because those are my warmest audiences. So I want to track to make sure that I am growing those audiences, and it doesn't need to be those for you, although if your email list is a great one to track. And then, yeah, so I'm going to track how many new people am I bringing into my audience, how many people am I booking onto a call each month, and how many sales am I making. And from those 3 metrics, I can glean an awful lot of information as to where the gaps are in my business. But that's not enough. It's one thing to understand where the gaps are. You might already know the gap. You might go, Colette, yes, I know. I'm just not bringing enough people into my audience, but I'm doing everything I should, and I still don't know why it's not working. In which case, this is now the next step. Once we've kind of diagnosed the root cause of what's going on, let's understand why these things aren't working. So I'm going to try and help you do this by sharing a kind of series of questions that you can go away and reflect on. And hopefully by asking yourself these questions, you will uncover what could be going on and why those three metrics, or whichever of those three metrics aren't quite where you want them to be, are not where you want them to be. So the first question I want you to reflect on is around your messaging. And I want you to really reflect on whether your messaging is clear and compelling enough. Now, messaging is another one of those pretty fuzzy marketing terms. So let me be clear again as to what I mean when I talk about messaging. For me, your messaging is broken down into three very key things. The first one is, who is your service for? So who are your ideal clients, right? The second one is, what is it that you help people with? What is the result or transformation that your service delivers? And then the third thing is, why should they choose you? What differentiates you from other people doing something similar in the marketplace? Okay, now if you have really kind of clear messaging around those three things, that gives you a really strong foundation for everything else you do in your business. If you don't, it makes everything else in your business really, 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 really tricky. So messaging is always the place that I start with any client that I work with. It is pretty much always the first session that we have, because if you don't have this, everything else is just not going to work properly. So that is the place to start. Am I clear and compelling enough with my messaging? The second question I want you to ask yourself is around your service. Okay, so if you're not getting consistent clients, it's important to look at the service that you're selling, right? And ask yourself, is this service something my ideal clients actually want to invest in? And again, this is going to take some self-reflection. It sounds a really obvious question, well, duh. But quite often what we do is we build a service based on what we know our clients need, rather than really checking in with what they want. And so we build this service going, oh, you need this, and try and sell it to people who don't know that they need it, and so don't really want it. And that's a tough sell. So have you created a service that your ideal clients actually want to invest in? The third question I want you to ask yourself is to reflect back on those three metrics that I took you through. So your sales, your leads, and your audience growth. And just check in. Do I actually have a clear strategy that I am implementing consistently to achieve each of those three metrics? Am I doing something consistently to grow my audience? Am I doing something to get leads each month? And am I doing something to make sales each month? Just reflect on that, because quite often we have gaps, things that we're not doing at all, or certainly not doing consistently enough. So just check in with your own marketing and sales strategy and make sure that you actually do have stuff in place to build those three metrics. Okay, we're halfway through the questions now. How are you getting on? Let me know. I would love to know in the comments if you've had any light bulb moments so far. So the next question I want you to reflect on is, how long have you been implementing the strategies that you're currently using without success? And the idea behind this question is to just sense check whether it's time to change strategy, or whether just a little bit more patience is required. Okay, so a lot of marketing takes time, and what I often see is people implementing a new strategy, and then when it hasn't worked within a couple of weeks, a month, they're like, ugh, this isn't working, on to the next strategy. And it's not long enough. Of course it's not going to work in a couple of weeks or a month. You need to give these strategies time to actually have the impact that you're looking for. So first of all, just checking, am I being impatient? Do I need to just give these strategies a bit more time? Or have I been doing this for months and months and months and just not getting anywhere with it? In which case, do I need to kind of have a look at what's going on and understand why it's not working, whether I need to change my strategy or tweak the existing one? Okay, another great question for you to reflect on. Where have I seen success before? So where I have done something that has helped build my audience, where I have done something that got me a bunch of leads, where I have had a great call and converted someone to become a client. What was it then that gave me that success? And am I continuing to use those tactics? Am I still doing those things that have brought me success previously? It's amazing how often we quickly forget what brought us success in the first place during those feast months, and get lost in doing other strategies that have never worked for us, but we're kind of persisting with because of some kind of stubbornness or whatever. Check in, what are those strategies that have worked in the past, and are you using those to their best advantage? And then the last question to think about is the strategies that you've now reflected on, the stuff that you're currently doing in your business, whether it's working, whether it's not working. Where is your mindset and your energy when it comes to those strategies? Are there any strategies, tactics that you're currently doing in your business that just don't feel right for whatever reason? It could be a values thing, it could be a personality thing, whatever it may be. If you are trying to make a strategy work in your business that doesn't doesn't fit right with you, it's always going to be a bit more of an uphill battle. And at the very least, it's worth figuring out why that is, so that you can then make a more informed decision as to whether this is something I need to work on so I can make this strategy work, or whether actually this strategy isn't a good fit for me, and so I'm going to change it to something else. So those questions hopefully will have given you some light bulb moments and shed some light on what could be going on in your business, and why what you're currently doing isn't working for you. Do let me know any thoughts, any questions in the comments. I love to chat to you in the comments. It really does make my day. If you found the video helpful, do subscribe. I'm here most days of the week, and I'm also creating shorts as well, so go check those out, and do give the video a like as well, because it makes me very happy. And I shall see you again soon. Take care.